I finally got my second batch of parts that I ordered. I had to order them in a different supplier than before because the first supplier, a local supplier that I was using, told that he was very smart and he can make money on my back, but that's his problem now because he lost me and the shop that I work for as customers, because now we also ordered parts for the TR6 that we're restoring in the shop, and who knows, maybe we're gonna restore some other cars in future. And this supplier, just by being greedy, lost business from us, but anyways, that's his problem now. So in this huge box I got parts for my Spitfire, and we got also parts for the TR6. So I had to go through everything, check if we received everything, prices and everything. That took me literally 2 hours, but I'm happy now that I have almost everything and I can go ahead and assemble my Spitfire. These are mainly rubber gaskets, the mirrors, side mirrors. I was very happy about them because they are nice and shiny bullet mirrors. What else? As I said, gaskets for the doors, for the trunk lid, for the windshield. And one other thing that I'm very happy about, my stainless exhaust. And many other things, including the parts for the rear suspension that I was missing. And now I can go ahead and start assembling it. So finally I could dig out the frame from this corner where I put it after I assembled the front suspension and the engine, and now I could take it out and start working on the rear suspension. Even though I'm still not ready with the body, I still have to do some bonding there. But I was so bored with that I'm really happy I could take a small break and start working on something else. So I started with the differential because this is the base, let's say, of the rear suspension, because on top of the differential the leaf spring gets attached, and from there the vertical link, the shock and everything. So I had to start with the differential, but it was a little bit hard because I had to lift it up without lifting the frame, and the frame was so light at the back that if I was using a jack it would lift also the frame up. So I was using literally all parts of my body and everything that was around me, even this wooden box that I found, and I put it under the differential and then I held it with my foot up until I can get and I can mount the first nut on the front mount of the differential. Once I had one of the nuts there, I was able to put the second one, even though I still had to clamp it up because the rod was not long enough. I had to squeeze the rubber so I can put the nut in, but I was able to do that, and then I had to deal with the rear mount. So I put the plate that's holding the leaf spring, and then I used this specially designed lever to lift the rear end of the differential up without lifting the frame, and then I was able to put the long bolt that's holding the rear mount of the differential. Next I had to install the leaf spring, but before that I had to put the threaded rods that are holding it in place on top of the differential. To do that I had to lock two nuts one to each other on the threaded rod, then use them to tighten it all the way down, and then unlock them and take them out one by one. and then the next rod and the next one, and 6 times. Once they were in, I put the leaf spring there, but I was very careful for the direction, because apparently there is a sign saying which side is front and which side is rear, so I had to pay extra attention for that. I continued with the right side of the suspension. I installed the axle, and this is where I got really frustrated, because a couple of problems appeared. One of them was that I snapped some bolts when I took the car apart, and I forgot to order them. Then it appeared that I have the wrong shocks for this car. The previous owner probably bought some aftermarket, or maybe even bought some shocks for a different car, but they weren't matching anything there, and I found out because the bushings that I got for the rear suspension didn't match the shocks. So I was lucky that this weekend there was a flea market in Hamilton for British cars, and I was there anyways, and I bought new shocks, and I bought the bolts that I needed and everything, so I could proceed. But really this side of the suspension was so annoying that I'm not even gonna show you. Okay, so these are the shocks that came off the car, and I think they are good enough, but obviously I can't use them because it looks like they are aftermarket or came off some other car, because these are the bushings that I bought for them, but they don't fit. So I went to buy new bushings with the shocks, and it appeared that these shocks are not original, probably because they showed me these bushings here, and you see these match these. Anyway, so I had to buy new shocks, and with the bushings and with everything, so I'm not gonna use the old ones. I'm not gonna use these bushings. I'm just gonna keep them as a spare. And unfortunately, the shock was the only red thing, the only red accent that I was gonna have on the rear suspension, and now I'm not gonna have it. I'm not gonna paint these, so my rear suspension is gonna be all black. But it is what it is. So after all the problems I had with the right side of the suspension, I'm gonna skip directly to the left side, where all the problems were, let's say, pre-solved, and I could edit a smooth video. I couldn't do that with the right side. So again, I started with the axle, and then I started assembling the tronion. Then the vertical link, and again with the help of my magic stick I compressed the spring, and I could put the top bolt of the vertical link. Next I installed the new shock. I put the bottom bolt, and for the top one I decided to try with the jack, and this time it worked well because the car was heavy enough already, so I managed to lift up the suspension only, and the weight of the frame was pushing down, so I was able to put the top bolt in place too. The last part of the suspension was the radius arm. I put the new polyurethane bushings, and I bolted the rear end, the one that goes to the vertical link, and left the front end hanging because this front end gets attached to the body when it gets installed on the frame. With the suspension completed, I started assembling the brakes. First thing to do was to install the cylinder. I put some grease there so it can slide easily back and forward, because that's how it works. It's a single-sided cylinder with only one piston on one side, and how it works is when this piston comes out, the actual width of the cylinder becomes wider, and the piston pushes one of the brake pads, and the actual cylinder, the back of the cylinder, pushes on the other pad, so it needs to be able to slide back and forth. I hope what I'm saying makes sense, but I'm sure you understand. Then I installed the adjuster assembly, which is like support or like pivot for the pads. Actually, the shoes is the right word. Sorry about my French. And once that was done, I was up to installing the actual shoes and springs and little tabs that were holding them in place. I totally forgot that the drum was red, and I still had the red accent for the rear suspension. I thought that the shocks were the only red parts there, but I still have the red drums, so that really made me happy. To be able to tighten these bolts, I used a small trick. I just pulled the handbrake tab, and this blocked the drum from spinning, so I could tighten the bolts. And to complete the brakes, I installed the brake hose with a new copper washer there. And actually there's one more thing which I'm forgetting here, but you will see later. I had to undo the hose again because I forgot the dust cover for the back of the cylinder. But at that time I didn't know yet, so I installed the wheel, and I removed this box that was holding the rear part of the frame so far, and I finally put it back on the ground, or actually on the shoulders. And then I tested the suspension. I just wanted to make sure that the axles don't hit the frame anymore, which they didn't, and I was so happy about that. And it looked gorgeous, didn't it? At this point I realized that I forgot the dust cover, so I had to remove the brake hose again, and I was too lazy to remove the tire, so it was a little bit awkward position to work, but I managed to do it. And after all, even though that was the second side of the suspension, I still forgot something and I had to redo it, as you see. But what can you do? Sometimes you have to repeat things that you've already done. And another little container with hardware, this time for the drive shaft. I'm so happy I divided all the hardware in little containers and I marked everything because it was so easy to work now. So I installed the drive shaft, and with this my front and rear end got connected. Now all we need is torque. So it starts looking like a car again. It has all four wheels on the ground finally. And not really on the ground, but on the strollers. So now I can start I still have to change the tie rod hands. And I need to install the exhaust. I need to fill up the trellis and the differential with oil. I shouldn't forget the engine too, it's dry now. And the e-brake cable I need to run. And basically that's it for the frame. Then I can put the body on top and start working on the interior and paint.